Hi there, this is Phil with PhilFX, and this is our first initial tutorial for class. It's covering starting After Effects, and so without further ado, let's go ahead and start up After Effects. So I've got my desktop screen here, and this is on a Windows machine, so you can't see it, but I'm just going to click the icon that I've got on the bottom, and After Effects starts up. This is CC 2014, which is the latest release. At school we have CS6. When After Effects starts up, you see all of this activity going on there, and those are the plugins that are loading. So you're greeted with this welcome screen, and the welcome screen in general pretty much is the same. The layout's a little bit different in CS6 than it is in CC, but in general it's about the same, covers the same information. So I'll cover some of the differences and we'll go from there. So first thing is you can select to always show this welcome screen at startup. If you don't want to, you can click this, and then when you close it, the next time you start After Effects, it won't show that. If you decide you want it back, if you go to the help menu, go down to welcome screen, you can come back and you can enable that. So walking around the screen here, first we have sync settings with Adobe Creative Cloud. So I can set up some settings, and it logs into my account that I have. My account name is going to be grayed out here, but if you have an Adobe Creative Cloud account, you can set up After Effects on one machine, and you can synchronize your settings from all of the different machines, which is actually pretty nice. You can see here a list of recent projects, and there's about 6 projects here that were recent ones that I used, and this is where the welcome screen is actually pretty handy, because if you were doing some work, it's a quick way to get the most recent file or files that you were working on. Over here on the right, you can start a new composition, or you can open an existing project, or you can get help and support or getting started. These are the ones that are different with After Effects CC versus what's in CS6. But if you click on help and support, that brings up a website, and it has Adobe After Effects CC, and there's actually some fairly good tutorials here on getting started, and some other techniques with After Effects. And if we close this down and we click on just getting started, this digs in here, and if we scroll down here, you can see the list of tutorials that they have, which is actually quite comprehensive. And so there's a number of tutorials. These are all free, and you can go over and you can see and view these. I'll be referencing some of these from time to time, and I'll also have additional tutorials on my own. And for the people that for in class, because we don't have CC in class, I'll have these links to both of these pages on my handout notes. So what I want to do is we'll go ahead and start a new composition, and the composition is basically the basic timeline that you use to set up for any kind of a project. This right now is, because I've opened this before, it remembers your previous settings, and so the settings right now, and I'll hand out a template for everybody to use, but we're doing a reduced size, so it'll be 720 pixels by 405 pixels, which is an aspect ratio of 16 by 9, which is the same as high def. We'll have a frame rate of 29.97 frames per second. We'll discuss that a little bit more in class, and the duration is 10 seconds with a black background. So let's just go ahead and click OK on that. And so this is your basic startup screen for After Effects. And like I said, in this tutorial, the first thing we want to do is talk about preferences. So in preferences on a Windows machine, you go under the edit and you go to preferences, and we'll just click general. If you have a Macintosh, you go under the Apple menu. And the most important things that I want the students to set initially are right here where it goes to autosave. So we'll click on that. And I want to make sure that you have autosave set. And I've got mine set for 20 minutes. I think for everybody in class, for the students, it'd probably be better if you set this maybe down to 10 minutes. And it'll save, what it'll do is After Effects will save your project every 10 minutes. And it'll save 5 versions, a history of up to 5 different versions. That's really important because, for starters, our class machines have been prone to crash, and there's been numerous times where a student has lost their work and they worked for hours on end, and all of a sudden the machine crashed and they never saved. And it's a very common mistake early on to make, and I just would like very much to have make sure all the students avoid that if possible. The other setting that I think is fairly important is the memory and multiprocessing. This is my home machine, and I've got 24 gigs installed, and this is a dual hex core CPU, so I have 12 cores on this machine. And After Effects can be quite CPU intensive depending upon some of the special effects that you have in its rendering. And if you have additional cores, it's important to be able to use them. The machines in class have at least 2 cores. I don't know what the machines you may have on your laptop or machines you may have at home, but if you've got those cores, you want to use it. So to do that, you want to click this setting where you render multiple frames simultaneously, and render for the only for the render queue, not RAM preview. Actually, I usually leave that unchecked because I want to use my multiple cores for RAM preview as well as just the render queue. If you've got something going on in background and your machine's doing other things, then you may want to check that so it only does it for the rendering. But actually, I like to keep that so I can use it for RAM preview also. The way I have it setting, again, I have 24 gigs of memory, so I'm allocating 1 gig for every one of my cores. And so I have 12 cores available, and it's going to use 12 cores. If I went in and changed this memory, let's go ahead and knock that up to 6 gig, you actually see that I have 12 installed, but it's not going to use any of them because I allocated too much memory per core. If I knock this down to, say, 2, it'll use 7 cores. Really, for everything that we're going to be doing in class, a gigabyte is more than enough. And even everything that I've run into, even with my own work. So 1 gig is plenty. Another one of the settings that you may want to do, those are the 2 main ones that I think are most important, which is the autosave and the multiprocessing. Depending upon your personal preferences, if we get into the appearance, the new versions have a very dark background. You can change this so you have a light background. You can see the fonts just changed from being white fonts on a black background to black fonts on a white background. Some people like that. You may want to have this go back. I personally like the newer dark background, but that's my own personal preference. But you can change that however you like. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel there so I can preserve my settings. So we discussed starting After Effects. We discussed using the welcome screen and the features of the welcome screen, and we discussed setting the preferences, and in particular setting that autosave, which is very important, so you can save your project, and the multiprocessing so you can utilize the other hardware cores that you have in your machine. So hopefully this will help get you started, and we'll go on to the next tutorial, which will be basically going over the user interface. So